Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Jax, and I'm here with a video about my Lasik procedure. Now, I did not get traditional Lasik. Some of you might think that Lasik is just one procedure, which technically it is, but there is a second procedure called PRK. PRK is not called Lasik in the medical terminology world, but it basically is the same thing. You get the same results, just at a longer time period. So, talking about how my procedure started, I did go in for my consultation to begin with. Lasik consultations are free. So, no matter if you are just thinking about getting it, or actually going to get it, or just not sure if you should or shouldn't, the consultation's free, so you don't need to worry about having to pay to actually even start the process. It gives you a good milestone of where you're at with your eyesight, because it's not about your age as to when you can get Lasik. It's when your eyes have leveled out. Sometimes that is to do with age, but sometimes it's also to do with just your eyesight in general. So until your eyes have evened out to a line where they're not going to change dramatically or change any more from what they actually are with your prescription, then you are a candidate for Lasik. There are also a lot of other components that go into that as well. So the other components that are part of being a candidate for Lasik is going to be steepness in your eye. It sounds weird, and I thought it was weird, at least from my personal perspective, that your eyes had steep points. I didn't think that that was possible, but I learned that contact lenses can create that, and so can excessive rubbing. So I have seasonal allergies, and I've had them since I was a kid. So I do have a couple of steep patches in my eyes, which made it a little bit harder for me to be a candidate, but they weren't too severe. Now, the consultation, they'll go over a lot of stuff with you, and I mean a lot about your eyes. It's crazy the amount of complications that you can have with your eyes and the differences with them. So I'm not going to go into full-on depth with how the consultation really goes, other than they look at your eyes. The entire time they're looking at your eyes for different things. So you'll go through a lot of procedures. They will dilate them, and they will numb your eyes for specific parts of the tests. So that's it for the consultation. I'm not going to go into that too much because, like I said, it's free, so you can do it for yourself or go in for yourself and get it done. You don't have to basically research it to think that if you're going to be able to do it or not, or afford it or not. To the procedure itself. I had my procedure about, I think, 3 to 4 weeks after I had my consultation, and that was mainly because I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to commit to having the procedure. So a lot of people will get it done like the next week. They had only 2 appointments available, and it was the next week, or it was the 3 to 4 weeks out. So I picked the furthest one out just because I wanted time to decide if that's really what I was going to commit myself to. Side note, if you do wear glasses or contacts, specifically if you wear contacts, they can distort your eyes. So not wearing them a week before your consultation and at least 2 weeks before your actual procedure is very beneficial, because your eyes can reshape over that time period. So I did that, and that's what actually made me a better candidate after I had taken my glasses off, or taken my contacts out for that period of time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had enough. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been a candidate because of the steepness and all the different shapes of my eyes were, because they were just crazy. Like, seriously, contacts ruined my eyes. Straight up. So just a forewarning, if you plan on committing to this, you might hate glasses. I hated them personally. They ticked me off. They were terrible. I will never ever, well, now I will never wear glasses, but if I had a choice, I would never ever wear glasses again. And so if you hate glasses as much as me, it will be a painful 2 weeks, but it will be entirely worth it, especially when your eyes are shaped properly and your procedure is going to go along a lot better. So now going on to the procedure itself. They put me in a post-op room. I was told that I was supposed to get something like Valium to take the edge off of the whole procedure itself. I mean, this is overwhelming. They're messing with your eyes, and you're conscious when they're doing it. So it's not something that you're going to want to actively have, or you're going to think is awesome. At least I didn't, and I don't know if someone else has thought that was awesome to be able to watch it, but it's kind of creepy. So I didn't have any Valium. I didn't get anything, any kind of, even a small type of sedative, nothing. So I basically went into that operating room after sitting in post-op, and I was freaking out. Kid you not. I was like screaming inside because I was so scared. I mean, it was very overwhelming. Not to mention the room was freezing. It was absolutely cold in that room. So they laid me down on the table and they had me look up into what looked like a big giant visor. So kind of like if you were to be like halfway into an MRI machine, that's kind of what it was. It was a big thing above your head and you laid down underneath it, and that's where the lasers were. So with PRK, the difference between the two are going to be with LASIK, they cut open that flap on your eye and peel it back and then put the lasers in and then seal it back up. With PRK, they scratch, basically they buff the top of your eye and they buff that down instead of cutting it open, and so then the lasers go through that way. That's where it comes to the longer healing process, but I'm going to get back to that in a minute. So when it came to laying on that table, I started fidgeting. I had my hands on my chest, I had my hands by my side, I grabbed the table. I did so many things with my hands trying to like get just a grasp of something so I wouldn't flail and like grab my eyes in the middle of it. They eventually gave me a stuffed animal to hold, which made it a little bit more bearable, but I think I almost ripped that toy in half because of how terrified I was. So with my procedure, when it came to having the actual buffing of my eyes, which sounds a little crazy and a little weird, it was very creepy. I could see everything, and all I remember is all I could still visualize is them scraping with, it looked like a hook-shaped item. I mean, it's really hard when it's like right on your eye. You can't really see what it is, but it looked like a scraper, like a tooth, like what they scrape your teeth with. It looked like that, and they scraped it across my eye, and all I saw was this like milky film that started just coming off in like a big pile. Like it was almost like they scooped it into a pile on my eye, and then they like scooped it onto a piece of either paper or a piece of cloth or something just to get it off of my eye. It was the weirdest thing to see, and it kind of creeped me out, and I think that was actually the most terrifying part of it. The easiest part was the lasers. Surprisingly, a lot of people have asked me if the lasers were the scariest part, or they thought that the lasers were the scariest part, and they're really not. The actual procedure of either cutting your eye open or buffing it or whatever they're doing to your actual eye, that is the scariest part, because that takes the longest. The laser was probably was about 5 seconds. So I looked up and there were 2 red lights on the side and 1 green light right in the middle. So you focus at this green light, and the guy will tell you that the person's gonna tell you that they're gonna turn on the laser, start their lasers or whatever. You have to look at that light. And deep in the back of my mind, I was just like, oh, please don't make me not look at the light. Please don't look at anything, just look at the green light. I kept telling myself, look at the green light, because I was so scared that I was going to look away from it, and God knows I do not want to know what happens if you look away from that green light. But I looked at it, and it was really weird because as the laser went through, you could hear the laser, you could hear it buzzing, and then it sounded like it was going, it was like you could hear the buzzing going across your eye. Not only that, but you could also smell this, like, it smelled like burning hair. So that was not very cool either, because of the fact that you're thinking like, oh, it's really burning my eye. I'm like, you can smell that your eye is burning. And it's a very interesting smell. I think it's more like burning hair. It was not pleasant, but luckily it wasn't long. And then as you're looking at these lights, specifically the green one, I gotta tell you, do not look away from the green light. But looking at the green light, it changed. It was like a strobing light to begin with, but it was really weird because as the laser went through, it's like the light had changed, and you could see like all the little particles that made up this laser. It was the coolest thing ever. So it was almost like watching a light show, and I think that's what I've heard some people say. It's like a light show, and it pretty much is. So if lights interest you, like looking at them, or even like light shows themselves, it's not going to be that difficult for you to focus, but you just want to focus on the one spot, not every other light that's going out. So after that, they put drops in my eyes, they removed all the stuff. The clamps, by the way, hurt probably the most. Out of everything in this procedure, I didn't feel a thing. I didn't even feel the scraping. The worst thing that I felt was that clamp in my eye, and I think it might have been because they put it in too far, and so it was like really pinching my skin. But it was absolutely awful. So anyway, after that, I sat up. I could see pretty decently. My eyesight right now is still not the greatest because of the PRK. It takes up to 4 to 6 weeks for you to even get close to the 20/20 vision. So it's a very slow process for healing and a very slow process for getting your eyesight. If you want a quick fix, then there goes the Lasik, where your recovery is very, very fast and you don't feel a lot of pain after the fact. I did have a lot of pain the first 2 days after my procedure. Now the healing process for PRK, the first 2 days they do hurt. Your eyes will hurt. I tried avoiding using any of the painkillers they gave me, specifically because even the eye drops they had for me, they don't sound good at all. They told me if I used more than 2 drops a day, which is the max you're allowed for those drops, she said if you use more than 2 drops a day, you will melt your corneas. Anything that melts my eyes, I don't think I want to actually put in them, even if it's just 1 drop. So I opted out of using the eye drops. I threw those away straight away as soon as I got home. I think the only thing I took was ibuprofen, and that was pretty much it. I did a lot of sleeping, kept my eyes closed, so best to plan this on a weekend if you don't have time off work, or if you work on weekends, basically plan it around where you don't really need to take vacation time and you can take 2 days off just to sit at home and keep your eyes closed and rest them, because you will be light sensitive. I was light sensitive for even 3 days. By the 4th day, my light sensitivity had gone. I am now sitting at a week after my procedure. I am getting my bandages taken off tomorrow. I do still have the contact bandages on my eyes, which have a slight prescription, so I'm curious to see what my eyesight is actually at without this prescription lens. It is a very minimal prescription, but I don't know if it's either creating the distortion of what I can see, or if it's helping me and my eyesight is actually worse than what it is with the contact lens. So we'll figure that out. But yeah, so I mean, it wasn't that terrifying for me. It was more of it was a big experience. I would not change my mind. I was glad I chose the PRK. I guess I should have told you guys at the beginning, the difference between PRK and Lasik as well is the tissue needed to do the procedure. The package I got, you get lifetime enhancements. Enhancements will deteriorate that tissue as you get Lasik done, or the procedure done in general. PRK uses the least, Lasik uses the most. I didn't have a lot to give anyway. I could have gotten away with doing Lasik this time, but getting an enhancement in the future would have been questionable because of how much skin I would have had left. So I opted for the more conservative route, so then I can get my enhancements when I need them without having to worry about them. So that's another choice that you're going to have to make as to if you're going to want to get the PRK procedure or if you're going to want to actually just go for the Lasik itself. They're the same price. There was no difference in price when I got it, and even when I asked them which would be cheaper, they said that they're the same price. They're the same thing. So it's really up to you on what you want to get and what you're willing to sacrifice, because obviously Lasik is the quick fix, PRK is the slow progressive fix, but are you going to want to give up the opportunity of getting enhancements or not? So it's kind of a decision you have to make on your own. I am very glad I got my Lasik. I am sure you guys might have a lot of questions. I don't know how many questions there are out there about Lasik, but this is just basically a little bit of a story about my Lasik procedure and a little bit about how it went and everything like that. If you guys have any questions relating to PRK itself or even Lasik in general on my procedure, please leave a comment down below and I will either reply to your comment, or if there's enough questions, I might just create a Q&A video to answer all of your questions that you guys have. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. You guys are super awesome. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!